We're hanging out today to talk about the new album that you are going to be releasing. It's called The Sleeping Dead, and I believe it is a score or sections of a score from one of the all-time great zombie films, The Night of the Living Dead. What can you tell us about this album, guys?
Yeah, so we do film music, and we have a full score for Night of the Living Dead, and yeah, the record is excerpts from that score because we're not releasing a synchronized like video release for this record, so we were able to sort of make some of the tracks a little bit shorter and more manageable.
Digestible.
Yeah, more digestible. That's a good word for it. And also fit them onto a single record for Consouling,
Yes.
so, which they appreciated.
Yeah, the last record was a double album because when we released our score to Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, it being in public domain, we were able to have a Blu-ray release. So when we did that, we re-recorded the entire thing and released the entire thing, and it was a double album. So yes, it was a little bit more digestible and more manageable.
For Night of the Living Dead. So,
Yes.
yes.
How do you go about picking the scenes or even the parts of the scenes or the scores that you had written for the album?
Yeah, well, when we recorded the record initially, we actually recorded the drums as part of the Caligari sessions. And we did that synchronized with the film because we weren't sure if we were going to be able to do the video at that point. And then when we came back to do all the rest of the tracking a couple months later, we knew that we weren't doing the video, and then we sort of took what we'd done with the drums and the scratch tracks and edited them down and then played to that. And then Greg Wilkinson and I sat around one day and uh, really chopped the hell out of things, which is why on the digital release, we actually have three alternate versions that are the full length film versions of some of the songs. So,
All right, awesome. So we are still also going to be able to, be treated to some of that full length score. Are you going to release those with time codes so that those who are interested in seeing it synced up with the movie are able to pick the point and watch along with the score?
you
Are you
know,
going to leave
that's
it up to us to
good
discover?
thought. Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, probably what I'll do is add that's a good thought. I'll add some notes in the comments or in the track descriptions in Bandcamp about like which scene they're for. That's a very good thought.
That
I like
is.
that. Yeah.
I appreciate that, gentlemen. You could use that one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean,
No credit needed.
yeah, the other thing with Night of the Living Dead is it has several sections with a lot of dialogue where when we're doing it live, we're just not playing at all. There was no music in those scenes originally, and we retained that. So, and let me tell you, live, it can be a little painful sitting there like for 15 minutes while they're like, yapping at each other about, because it almost turns into like this sort of, domestic sitcom for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Is it like in the jam room Yeah, or like notoriously when like another of your band is trying to tune or something, but you just can't help but just shredding or noodling on idea and absentmindedly just sort of playing away, like having to stand there and just resist the urge to touch your instrument.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also it comes to the point of like, I mean, number one, like Tim said, there was no music in those scenes anyway, and we retain that. But also we all, when we perform it live, we just didn't want to take away from the act because that's really where the meat of the dialogue is and the meat of the story if you're sitting in the audience. And we didn't want to take away from the dialogue so much. We didn't want to like fight with the dialogue. We wanted to allow the dialogue to be present and upfront.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is hard not to noodle.
Yes.
And
Our drummer has many difficulties with that. It's a
yeah.
challenge.
How long did it take them to learn to turn their snare rattle off?
I don't think he does.
Just lets it boom away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only have you taken the full score of The Night of the Living Dead and said whittled it down and condensed the parts of it, but then you guys, in lead up to the release of the record, have also been releasing well singles from the album as well, bits and pieces there, with the most recently being Refuge Resist. And love what you did with the name there, guys.
Thank you.
I
Yes.
actually had the honor of interviewing Max Cavalera recently, and I asked him if he was going to sit down with a beginner guitarist and teach them one of his riffs. I coined it as being, what was his smoke on the water going to be? And he named, Refuse Resist as the most iconic riff for him to teach a beginner guitarist. So yeah, when I saw the PR release for this, and that was the name of the album, well, not sorry, the name of the album, the name of the single, um, yeah, just put a little extra
Yeah.
smile on
Oh
my face
yeah.
to see it. Is there uh, musical puns that you also have laced through in it, or was this one too good not to use?
Yeah, it's a bad habit.
Yes.
Like, I do like to sort of name drop things,
Yes.
like a little bit. I mean, it's like an Easter egg, you know.
Yeah.
Like our first record was or our first sort of demo was called Strategies Against Cinematography, Volume One, which is a call out to Einstürzende Neubauten, uh, strategies against architecture. Yeah, just little things like that.
Yeah.
But the refuge resist one or refuge resist was almost subconscious though. I didn't even really put it together like in my head until afterwards, and then because we were listening to that record driving down to a show down in Santa Cruz a while back, and I was like, "Oh, wait."
Yeah. And as for me, I mean, I grew up being a huge Sepultura
Oh
fan.
yeah, me too.
And
Yeah.
the one time I got to see them before Max left the band was on that tour when I was growing up back home in New York. So to me, as soon as he said it, I was like, "Ooh, yeah, I like that."
Yeah.
On board straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we're working on this stuff, a lot of the time, the scenes, we don't like give them song names. It's just like, and like, oh, it's the truck barbecue, or it's the house attack, or something like, it's like what's going on in the movie, and but then the labels, like. Billy over at Koolarrow's like, hey, I need some song titles so I can, set this stuff up and, generate ISRC codes and stuff. And we're like, oh God, we've got to name all this stuff like really quickly. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think yeah. Didn't I just sort of knock out the names for that? And
Yeah, you
like
did.
I was like, here, do we want to call it this? Anybody have any objections?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually one song from Caligari we played last night at a memorial show for a dear friend of ours, And one of the tracks we played was a track from Caligari, and we still introduced as Act Four. You know,
Well, it's actually
it
called
is
that
called Act Four,
before.
but
Yeah,
like it's
yeah,
like for the longest time it was like, oh yeah, four, yeah, sure, okay.
yeah. Well, Caligari is easy because the film is actually broken up into acts,
Yes.
and the songs are the acts.
Yes. So we had an
Except,
easy out that way.
yeah, but yeah, we didn't. We don't. It's nicer to actually give stuff a name.
Yeah.
And and if the name can sort of like the names for all the Sleeping Dead songs are sort of like they're about the scene.
Yeah.
When you get to it fundamentally, like it was a good plan. That's the truck barbecue. I mean, so they plan to go out and get the gas for the truck, and
I think all things go terribly awry.
yeah, and it doesn't work out so well. Hence the truck barbecue reference.
Yep, not the
But
ideal tailgating experience, I guess.
yeah,
Exactly.
well, I mean, it depends on your perspective. I mean, I think the zombies were really appreciative.
Yes.
A little cooked flesh.
A little barbecue. Yeah.
Yeah,
Who doesn't love barbecue?
like
Guys are
that
making me
scene.
hungry now for brains.
We just ate and I just made myself feel hungry again too.
Totally.
Damn it,
Yeah,
now I want barbecue.
but
You mentioned there working with Bill Gould and Koolarrow. How did that connection come together? How did you wind up on Koolarrow Records?
Well, it originally all started. I worked at a shop here in the city that had a huge burger special. It was renowned throughout town. And Billy lives. I'm actually on. I live where we're having this interview. Actually on the block, and Billy used to live pretty much right there. And him and his wife was there every Tuesday, and like for years, like I was just sitting there, just like, oh my God, I'm serving Billy Gold fucking cheeseburgers. Oh my God, this is insane. But just like not saying a word. And then eventually one day, like I was wearing a Brujeria shirt, and he was like, "Oh hey, cool shirt," and I started laughing, and that kind of broke the ice. And the person that originally I started to sleep on with, Mark Jones, who's no longer with us. One day we went up to him. We were like, "Hey, we've got this project, and would you mind just kind of like maybe listening to it or giving us a couple pointers or some advice?" And we sat with him once, and he piqued his interest, and it was always like occasionally thrown around every time we'd see each other. And then when we had a short hiatus, and when we came back, it pretty much became Tim and I running the band. And once again, I was just like, Brandon Billy was like, hey, how's sleep? Oh, well, we're kickstarting things. And actually, would you be into maybe sitting down with us again? And that started as a series of conversations between Tim and I and Billy, just the three of us just hanging out, us telling him where we were at, him just throwing spaghetti at the wall for ideas for us. And all throughout those conversations, it just grew to the point where he was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna sign you guys. And we were just like, yes, please.
well, yeah,
In a roundabout way.
we were at we have like a little end of the year sort of recap get together at the bar that Charlie works at, which is also right around the corner. So like we've got this little cluster in the lower Haight here. And we were sitting with Bill and talking about Caligari because we just tracked it and or we were about to track it. And I was like, yeah, I think we'll maybe look for a label for this one because we self-released the previous one um, the same week of the George Floyd thing during the pandemic. So it kind of went nowhere. And yeah, I'm like, we put it out there and we're like, well, that's it. We're not going to try putting a whole lot of extra effort into PR like right now. There's just too much other stuff going on. And he was like, well, I've got this label. It's kind of, I mean, it's kind of small. And we're like, no, dude, this is perfect. And it really is. I
Yeah.
mean, Bill's great to work with. And I mean, he's a good friend. And
Yeah.
as Charlie said, I mean, he's been sort of mentoring us for years. And it's like just the right level for what we've been trying to do. Because I mean, frankly, what we're doing is kind of weird,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. And like occasionally we play club shows, but most of the time we're playing like movie theaters and things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean,
um,
we're definitely something where I mean, I know that we've definitely experienced talking to people about what we do, and some people it's an instantaneous thing. Where like, oh, I get it. Whereas there's also people where like, I remember years ago we did a club show at a venue here, in the city, Benders, and the band that played before us, they played, and then we played after them, and then after we were getting off the stage, one of their band members went up to Tim, and was just like. At first I was like, what the hell are these, what the hell is up with these guys? And then like after 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, okay. We are strict. We're different, definitely.
yeah. Yeah, and then Consoling. So Dan from Discipline put Bill in contact with Consoling, and uh, they're all into it, and they're great. So, um, it's really sort of expanded everything, I guess. Like, I don't know. All of a
Inroads into
sudden,
Europe.
yeah, yeah, and it definitely expanded the reach of what we're doing. Yeah, we need to do a little bit more touring, I think.
Yeah.
We were trying to go over to Europe this year, but yeah, I don't think it's going to work scheduling wise. Um,
Yeah,
but
nothing does
we're,
a better job of getting in the way of life than life.
yeah,
Damn
yeah.
straight.
Well, I'm like, we could probably make it over, but it would only be for like a week, and that doesn't seem like a great idea. It seems better to plan for like, 2 or 3 weeks in 2026 and like really anchor it. So that's what we're working on right now, or starting to work on. Player, fortunately, we have the other European connection there because she's French and she knows a whole lot of people in France. So she's sort of leading that effort. Um,
Yeah, it
yeah,
makes me think with your sound, your concept, what you do, that yeah, planning out a tour would probably be a little bit different than most bands where, you're looking for the prime venues to play and what's available. I guess you guys would probably be looking for like art house cinemas and stuff
right.
like that
Yeah.
that you can
Yeah,
book out.
exactly. Yeah, so it's difficult to have conversations with like booking agents because their contacts and their networks are all around traditional venues. And while Caligari is short enough to be played in a traditional venue, that's about it. Like, and you can't do Night of the Living Dead in a bar.
Yeah.
That you can get away with doing the silent films in bars, but the things with dialogue definitely need a theater setting
Yeah.
where people are talking, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah.
Though it
So,
gave
but
me an idea for merch. Have you guys considered putting out an official Sleep Bomb bean bag that they can bring with
uh,
them to the venue so they can get nice and comfy?
oh, I
Ooh,
love it. That
I like that.
it might be a little
Again, no
bulky.
credit. You can have it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's not a bad idea.
No, it's not.
We could hand sew them.
You know, guy.
Do
Your wife.
No, I would not ask my wife to make a bunch of beanbags.
She might start throwing them at you.
She might not be putting beans in them either.
Totally.
Yep.
We spoke a bit before as well about the recording of it that you've worked again with Greg Wilkinson. Um, I was checking out his discography before, and yeah, he's got lots of really brutal underground stuff um, with his
Yeah,
name, and
no,
obviously his association with High on Fire and Autopsy. How were the recording sessions for him, and as to how did that then differ between the cabinet of Cagli? I want to keep wanting to say Cagliostro, Lupin fan.
Caligari.
Caligari, yeah,
Yeah.
and the Living Dead sessions.
Honestly, they were very similar.
Yeah.
We're because we all of our stuff is very developed before we get into the studio. And we kind of like go in and just knock the stuff out. It's usually like, maybe two or three takes and some overdubs. And, we're very efficient. Because, we already kind of have to be because we're performing the stuff live before we record it. And then when we start getting out of that process, which we tried, we're yeah trying to write stuff in the studio doesn't necessarily work out very well for us, so we try not to do it because our writing process is very sort of like iterative, you know. Um, so yeah, I'd say the sessions were well. I mean, the drums were literally the same. They
Yeah.
were we recorded Caligari, and then we recorded Night of the Living Dead the next day.
Mhm.
Um, and the drums were a lot of the reason why we wanted to work with Greg in the first place, because we were very familiar with his discography and like all the stuff that he's worked on, and he's just a great guy. And, really easy to work with, but like I knew that he would really be able to make Rob sound great, right? Yeah, and I mean, all of us sound great. I mean, he's
Yeah.
recorded so many, like Vastone and
Necrot.
yeah, Necrot. Like, obviously we're not like a death metal band, but we wanted a death metal recording. Yeah, but he's also worked with like bands like Amber Asylum, and like Sutek Hexen, that are a lot more experimental. So I knew that he would also be, that he wouldn't be like trying to force us into like a sort of death metal process. And we're a little weird, so he definitely worked with that. Um, and apparently our tunings are weird. I don't think they're weird,
I don't think
but
they're
yeah, he thinks that we're weird because he's used to like death metal guys that are all playing like seven string like stuff tuned down like 18 steps
weird.
you know or like drummers doing like playing to click tracks and things. And we don't do that because click tracks don't work. We've tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Gotta, gotta have that flexibility.
yes, yes. I mean, the only things I'd probably add to what Tim was said was like I think the only differences were two that was like with Caligari, it was for me personally, it was just less getting into the room and
Yeah.
getting to know him and what he does. And then the second time around, it was just really having that familiarity. I mean, the last time when we recorded our demo, and then when we recorded our last record, it was going in, banging out the tracks, and that was it. Like, I, I remember the second day of guitar work, we came in, and Greg was like, "All right, so it's time to do overdubs," and I was like, "Over what?" You know?
Yeah.
Okay, and like it was really interesting sitting down with him, and like that's when it became more of a collaborative process where I was like, okay, well, you know what, Greg, I've never done overdubs. What are your thoughts? And like, throw a couple ideas back and
Yeah.
forth. Oh, well, like let's try that out. Oh, wow, that really works. And so that I think those were like the two like major differences. It was like,
Yeah.
and then like that second time around when we came in for 9/11 Dead, already knowing what was going to happen and being like, okay, like this is how we're going to work everything. And oh, wow, guitar overdubs, man, I've got some ideas now, actually.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, just to add on to what Tim said, that was probably,
Yeah, and and we did credit Greg as a producer on both records
yeah, absolutely.
because he really did contribute. It was a lot more than just engineering and mastering. Well, engineering, mixing, and mastering.
Yes.
He's the whole package. And actually, we've since recorded with him a third time. We were there this summer recording. Our stuff for Conan the Barbarian, which I have no idea when we're going to put it out, but we're going to mix it in a few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
So,
I was having a dig through the YouTube channel to have a look at the extra or the other singles that you had released in the lead up to the Sleeping Dead, and I saw there was a live Conan the Barbarian one in there as well. So I've actually bookmarked that one to go back and watch after this interview as well. So I'm like, ooh, interested. Let's see what they do
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Conan's a complicated topic because we've been having some rights issues with it for the last couple of years that our lawyers are actually trying to figure out with Universal right now. So I probably shouldn't talk about it too much. But
Do you want me to go back and just put censor bleeps over?
no, not to that extent, not to that extent. But like I should probably go axe that, or make that particular recording private or something, because it has dialogue in it from the film. So, but I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I better
Yeah,
watch it quick.
yeah. I think that one is just a recording with like a still. It's not synchronized, so it doesn't actually have the movie synchronized with it.
Yeah, we couldn't release, I believe, on even on YouTube.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't try.
Yeah.
Like, you know, yeah, that would get shut down quick.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've done shows where we've done a venue show where we've done just different scenes from science fiction films, and then Tim's released like, oh, we did a scene from Blade Runner and we
Yeah,
released it on YouTube with the music, and and they flagged us, and we've been able to beat stuff like that, but yeah, the whole movie is
yeah,
just
a whole movie they won't go for.
yeah.
Yeah,
Especially with the prevalence of like the AI nannying that's going on. I mean, it's easy enough to release stuff that's completely unrelated to anything and still get flagged for it.
Oh
totally.
yeah.
Yeah. My favorite is getting our own music flagged on our own channel because the distribution company has forgotten to, whitelist our channel. And then we have to like write Bill, and then Bill has to write them, and then it starts working a couple of days later. But they've been better about that with this round. So
These guys, again, they're used to you.
yeah.
Well, we've got, the record coming out very soon. I believe it's going to come out on January the 24th
Yes.
next year.
Yep.
What are your release plans for the record other than talking about it in lead up? Have you got release shows lined up or anything?
Yeah, we're looking at in February. We're probably going to, a couple of weeks after, we're going to do like we have a couple of venues in the city. Like there's a movie theater that's directly across the street from a club that we've played at a couple of times, and we want to play the movie and then have a party, basically. And then we're going to be doing some touring in April and through the summer. And yeah, lots of stuff planned for next year. It's going to be busy. And yeah, what before the we might have one more video coming up soon, maybe a little Christmas surprise if we actually get around to finishing it. It's been a busy like few weeks.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, definitely.
So and yeah, and folks are going out of town soon, so gotta get things nailed down. But yeah, there might be a little Christmas surprise coming. I mean, kind of a terrible Christmas surprise, but it'll be a Christmas surprise nonetheless.
I always figured, yeah, zombies and Yuletide would go perfectly together.
Well, I mean, of course.
Oh,
Of
absolutely.
course. Yeah.
Wasn't Jesus the original zombie?
Oh, so sleep bomb, no politics, no religion, no wind chime. Yeah.
Selective
Those are
iconography.
sorry.
Only selective iconography.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, and I can't deal with wind chimes.
And whistles.
Well, yeah, and we added whistles to that, except to the what is it, the
The Aztec death whistle.
Yeah. Rob, when we were working on Conan earlier this year, one of the days when we're working on
Oh God.
percussion, Rob's like, "Can we stop by my house? This thing from Amazon just showed up."
Giddy like a 7-year-old.
Yeah, and he runs into the house and like we're like on our way back from lunch and like he runs into the house and comes back out and gets into the car and he's got this thing and he just starts blowing into it and it's this Aztec like battle whistle. Right, that like apparently they blew to intimidate their enemies as they like although the Aztec battles were pretty funny anyway because they didn't actually fight, they just sort of like poked at each other and then there were sort of like designated sacrifices. Yeah, very ritualized stuff, but they use these death whistles. So we were like, okay, you get to use it on one track.
One track.
That's
So it's going to be another little Easter egg to look out for the Aztec
Oh
death.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah. Oh no, you can tell that it's there. Yeah.
You could hear it,
Yeah.
yes. And then we also learned that he actually not only was this like it wasn't just this was his first Aztec death whistle, but it was the latest Aztec death whistle. We didn't realize he actually had a small collection.
Rob likes stuff like that.
He does. He likes the strange
Yeah.
stuff.
He's actually
It's a bit of a thing.
Yeah, he's a pretty good harmonica player, and we need to whip that out sometime.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got all sorts of. He's got one that's like this big. Yeah, so I mean, I'm like, why do you have a harmonica that big?
Extended range harmonica.
Yeah,
exactly.
Tim, Charlie, it's been awesome talking with you today. Unfortunately, I'm getting the good old notifications that we are out of time. But yeah, greatly looking forward to the release of The Sleeping Dead and checking that out. I've got a bunch more YouTube videos to watch out. And yeah, hopefully, yeah, those tour plans come together and, if you can swing it, maybe think about coming to Australia.
I know I have a place to stay in Melbourne. Actually, a dear friend of mine who's also one of my bosses he's from Melbourne, lives there. He comes into the States about 5 times a year. So I know we have a place to stay out there.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's kind of a long flight, but yeah, no,
Think how many
I mean,
times you can watch The Night of the Living Dead over and over again.
yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, we'd love to come down to.
Oh
We
yeah.
want to go everywhere
Yeah.
eventually. But we're like old and it's hard.
It would have been so much nicer if we were 22 doing this,
Yeah,
as opposed to 51.
totally.
Well, thank you for your time. It's much appreciated.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it on my end as well. Hopefully, yeah, we can catch up again, and maybe next time we're talking Conan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.